Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the zone here on an early Sunday morning, about 1:15 in the morning. I am back live with a guest from the land of the long white cloud, Miss Bubbliness, an up-and-coming moto vlogger from the Southern Hemisphere. Welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
And thanks for coming back. So what we're going to get into, we'll just get right into it today. So what happened was I went to one of the MV Agusta dealerships here in the States, and which is probably maybe about 30 or between 30 and 40 miles from where I am. So it's kind of a bit of a trek, but I think it's the closest one to me, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure. But in my mind, it's the closest one. Any or either case, so I heard this rumor. My friend owns an F3 675. The bike that we see up on the screen right now is actually a 2015 F3 800 in matte black finish with the red trellis frame. And it's just a gorgeous bike, and you can see why it was voted the best looking super sport in the world. But then again, of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and that may be subject to opinion. But in my opinion, it is the best looking super sport in the world. So so I heard a rumor. Now, I think before I get into the whole rumor aspect of everything, I think it's important maybe to just give a little bit of a background, and bring those of you up to speed as to what's been going on with MV Agusta. Those of you who have been following motorcycle news and all of the stuff that's going on in anything motorcycles know that MV Agusta had filed for bankruptcy earlier this year. And I got a little bit more details as to the why and the wherefore this was happening. We also heard earlier this year that, or was it last year? I think it was sometime within the last 12 months or so, that Mercedes-Benz had acquired 25% holdings or share holdings in the company. And so fast forward a little bit and to this year, and MV Agusta apparently got into financial trouble. The owner of the company, Castiglione, his first name escapes me at the moment, but apparently he borrowed more money than he was able to pay back. And so there was this back and forth, I guess, between Mercedes-Benz and MV Agusta, and Mercedes-Benz had offered to buy an additional 26% share in the company, giving them, giving them most of the ownership in the company. So they would have 51%, and Castiglione or MV would have, the Castigliones would have 49%. And apparently, I guess, ego and sort of this national pride thing. Now, Ducati faced the same. It's interesting because this is almost a carbon copy of what happened with Ducati. Ducati got into financial trouble. They there is a company.
What year is that?
Well, let's go back here because I brought it up on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is sort of not always accurate with respect to but anyway, this does give you sort of a brief overview with respect to what happened with Ducati. Right. So if you go back to the early 2000s, you had Invest Industrial Holdings. You can see that MV Agusta kind of has gone through some,
changes, yeah,
a lot of changes here. So if we fast forward to 2012, I think it was this company here, Performance Motorcycles or whatever.
Yeah,
they restructured the company, and then Audi acquired it somewhere around late 2012.
Wow.
and then or 13
I didn't
rather.
actually know that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So
fascinating.
so yeah, so Ducati is actually owned by,
Owned by Audi.
correct. That's correct.
Still? Wow, I didn't
Yes.
know that.
So you almost have a parallel situation going on here. So now with MV Agusta,
Mm,
you have a similar situation. And so there's a holding company, and then I guess right now as we speak, they are finalizing, to my knowledge, and this is, I don't want anybody who's viewing this or watching this to take all of this as gospel truth. I'm only repeating what I've been told, and my sources have told me that MV Agusta is currently been solidifying negotiations, and I guess some high ups in Italy had approached MV Agusta Castiglione and said, "Look, you have to kind of be willing to swallow your pride a little bit here because there's a
mm,
lot more to lose than just
mm,
your national pride." And when
mm,
you're looking at a motorcycle and you look at everything about it, I mean, you're seeing a complete object which was a compilation of efforts where a lot of people had to get paid money.
mm.
You have the tire manufacturers, you had mining for the steel and the alloys and doing the research and development to develop the bike and test the bike, and all of the
Right.
electronics and all of the stuff that goes into making the motorcycle. So you have a whole downline of components that put this bike, that makes the motorcycle what it is, all these complementary parts that bring the bike together. And so that is an effort that, it's a colossal effort by a lot of people. And so there's jobs to be lost. There's
Mm,
all the way across the board. So if somebody's pride gets in the way of basically the future of the company, the future of the
mm,
company and
mm.
its employees is contingent on what the owner of that company decides to do.
Yeah.
And so if the owner decides that they're going to cut their losses, file bankruptcy, and they don't want to be bothered, I mean, here we have somebody, you have Mercedes Benz, which is, they got deep pockets, and they can afford to actually resurrect this company and really do something incredible with it. Now,
Mm.
the F4, the current F4 motorcycle, we talked a little bit last week about the Zagato, if you remember, right?
Yes.
And now I also have some updated news on that. And apparently, the
Mm.
the we had talked about the idea that the Zagato was supposedly a one-off. Well, evidently, I have some updated news, which is to say that there has been talk about actually producing a limited run of those bikes.
Oh.
Bearing in mind that underneath the shell is the old F4 1000
Mm.
motorcycle, essentially a new skin. But apparently, they've had quite a few requests from customers that want the bike. And irrespective of what's underneath, I mean, Zagato is Zagato. It's one of these salon things that basically has this cachet, if you
Yeah.
will, surrounding it, and so they do some wonderful things with design. But anyway, so that's one of the things. That's one of the
How
rumors.
many?
I couldn't tell you because they didn't tell
Mm.
me. So
Mm.
usually limited production could mean anywhere from maybe two to maybe 300. I don't know. That's an arbitrary number. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
So don't quote me on that. All right. So there's that. So what I've been told is that MV Agusta is not going anywhere. So those of you who are watching by smartphone, or if you are listening to this, or if you are going to listen to this live cast, and if you're considering buying an MV Agusta, it should put your mind a little bit more at ease. But I think it'll be more
Mm.
so once the official announcement is made that negotiations have been made and that the company is solidified. I pray that that is really what is
Yeah.
happening or going on. but all indications seem to be pointing to the idea that MV Agusta is not going anywhere and that they will survive. Okay, now the other elephant in the room is a new F4. The current F4 is extremely long in the tooth. It started off as a 750, and as super bikes go, I mean, the 750 was actually used to be the go-to super bike. I mean, they didn't offer anything bigger than the 750. So the 750 evolved from that into the 1000 cc, which in its current F4 1000 form. Now, I read an article probably several days ago where Castiglione was talking about having a new F4. He said F4, but there wasn't. It was kind of ambiguous the way the dialogue went in the interview, and apparently they're talking about building a 1000 cc triple. Now, I heard the rumor about a week ago, and then I actually followed up on this rumor, and I talked to. I probably shouldn't say who, but just to keep it impersonal, but some good people, and according to them, it's a rumor, and so. But there's been talk. They actually know. I guess they know the director of operations for MV Agusta in America, and so the rumor is. And this is historical. This is on all fronts, and no matter which way you slice this, it's amazing news on all fronts because, when you look at the Triumph, let's go back like to the 1990s. Triumph had that Daytona 955. I don't know if you've ever seen or heard of that bike, but they had the 955, and it was not really developed as a race bike, and so they turned it into a naked, which became the Speed Triple, or which is what we now know as the Speed Triple. It was the 955 Speed Triple, then it became the 1050, and so on. So, the current Speed Triple is sort of the genesis of the Speed Triple goes all the way back. Goes all the way back.
955i?
Correct. That's right. Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. So it goes all the way back to that. Anyway, so then in 2003, Aprilia came out with this bike here for MotoGP. It's called the RS Cube. Okay, and let's throw up some pictures. That's not it there. I don't think that's it there. Well, anyway, here's.
Is that the one with the amazing sound?
Yes. Here it is. Yeah. So this was, and it was, to my knowledge, it was the first bike. It's a 3-cylinder. The engine was developed by Cosworth.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And
that isn't Ford like.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
So Cosworth has done a lot of bespoke work for a variety of different manufacturers, but apparently Aprilia had commissioned Cosworth to help them develop the motor. Now, the interesting thing about this is as anybody followed the history of this particular bike knows that this bike had a great deal of potential, but it kind of it came up short. It caught fire, I think, more than once. And then the riders said that it was just uncontrollable. It was just, so much power. So they had a test mule. Well, I think the bike that was developed
Did they have Stoner riding it, testing it?
Who?
That would have been good.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Actually, given it to him.
Yes. Well, right. He tamed the Desmond Asici, right? So it stands to reason he may have been able to tame this bike. But yeah, so the interesting thing about this is to my knowledge, it was the first bike to exceed 200 miles an hour on a GP circuit, which is a testament to its development. But it just was not very controllable, and they had I think the bike made around 204. I've heard different, like, I don't know. I've read different things. 230, 240
Mm.
horsepower, naturally aspirated. And then they had a test mule that evidently was 260 horsepower. Now imagine a three-cylinder that is just under 1,000 cc's and able to make that much horsepower. That's just crazy. So the
What would
pistons.
be
Go
what
ahead.
would be the life of the engine though?
Well, that's a good question, because when you're talking about motors that are very high spec,
Yeah.
and their one main purpose is to, exceed very high temperatures,
Mm.
and run very fast for very long
Mm.
or a given duration of time. And I think, the rules that, depending on, like, Dorna FIM rules state that they get so many motors and so many parts to rebuild a motor or whatever, like per season, and
Mm.
so forth. But anyway, the rules changed. This bike didn't. I can't. I don't even know if it did any podiums at all. But it was a brilliant effort, in my opinion, and it fell
Mm.
short. So that's the RS Cube, which came up short. The other triple cylinder race bike that came up short was the Foggy Patronus FP1. Um, we'll take a look at that bike. Oops, I think I spelled it wrong, but here it is. We got some images. Yeah, there it is. Uh, yeah, here it is. Yep. So this was
Mm.
another attempt at a three-cylinder MotoGP bike. It made podium, I think, several times, and but it also, it failed to meet up to expectations because the rules were changing, and then a lot of the Japanese bikes, the inline fours, were just, would overwhelm something like this. This wasn't quite to the specs that it needed to be in order to be competitive. So what happened is all of these bikes that were built, I think there were 100 or more or around that, that were built for the road, and they ended up in a shipping container, and they stayed there, like, collecting dust for gosh knows how long. And then I think someone discovered them, and I don't know, if you're in the market, you might be able to even find one, but they are extremely collectible, and that sort of thing. So here, this would be, I guess, as far as I can tell, a number two, and probably we could say with some clarity and confidence, another unfortunately failed attempt at
Mm.
trying to meet expectations. Now, so here we are back with MV Agusta. Now, let's just talk a little bit about this, and I've talked about this probably ad nauseum. I think I had a gentleman on a year or maybe 18 months ago. I did a live cast, and he's a builder of bikes. We've talked a little bit about him, and he's intimately familiar with this bike. He loves the bike. And one of the problems that MV has had with this particular model, that when it came out and some of the reviewers were talking about um, the bike, they had said that there was a little bit of a delay, like the ride by wire system wasn't perfect and this sort of thing.
Oh.
So it kind of came up short in that respect. Anyway, you can kind of pick and choose what you like or hate about a bike, and then of course it's all getting used to it. Evidently, a lot of firmware updates have been made to the ECU controller, which controls the fuel mapping and throttle opening and closing and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And they've also added what's called an auto blipper. Now, you've heard of a quick shifter, and an auto blipper is just the opposite of a quick shifter. Quick
Mm.
shifter helps you bang up through the gears without using the clutch. An auto blipper helps you bang down through the gears without using the clutch. And so, evidently, what I understand is that the auto blipper has actually eliminated the rev matching that was somewhat problematic. That was one of the things I had found, and I wasn't sure if it was just the generic fuel mapping that comes from the factory, because I understand you could also if you savvy enough, you can actually go in there and customize your own settings, which is really, really cool. You can also do that on the EBR, and I think on the the new Yamaha R1 as well.
Do you
Uh,
mean the modes? You go into the modes. Is that what
yes,
you
the, like
mean?
the rider modes, and you can set
Right.
up how the I don't know. Apparently,
Yeah.
you can set up like how the throttle opens and closes, and the
Mm.
sensitivity,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
That's
all that.
amazing. Because they
Yes,
usually have a few that are pre-programmed, don't they? Like for wet. They have like sport and wet and all that sort of stuff. But then they have ones that you can program in yourself.
yes.
Is it? Yeah.
That's absolutely right. In other words, they're basically just the pre-programmed, or the settings would, I guess, limit the amount the throttle bodies open and close. It'll limit the amount of power.
Mm.
It limits the
Mm.
amount of power in the motor depending on what setting you have it on. Some have
Mm.
just a few settings, and some have, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 pre-programmed settings.
Right.
But I think three is probably the three is probably standard, like from the
Standard.
factory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing that is unique about this particular bike, it is the only bike, sport bike, and or motorcycle, of any motorcycle, I think, that offers what's called a counter rotating crankshaft. In other
Ah,
words, the
like opposite.
crankshaft rotates in the opposite direction that the wheels turn, and this
Mm.
can only be
Mm.
found in MotoGP bikes.
MotoGP.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Wow.
if you actually look close enough at some of the footage on some of the MotoGP bikes, like the slow motion, you'll actually be able to see.
Yeah.
Um, you can see the clutch or whatever turning in the opposite direction.
Direction.
It's really
Yeah,
kind
it's
of cool
cool.
to look at. So single side swing arm, and Adrian. I remember I was talking about who actually designed this bike, and his name is Adrian. Um, Gosh, I can't remember his last name now. But yeah. Anyway,
Eh,
he's a British guy.
British. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
sounds very British.
So I think Brits can take a lot of pride. I mean, and
They
here's the other
should.
thing. It's really kind of funny, because here we are talking about, like, Castiglione sort of with this national pride thing.
Yeah.
He hired a Brit who actually stuttered under Tamburini, who designed the original F4, and that's kind of what this bike
Right.
was modeled after.
Right.
And actually, I think Tamburini was, sort of reservedly impressed. I think he held back some of his enthusiasm, but he was like, yeah, it did a good job.
Yeah.
So it came through on the bike. But to me, it's just a stunning, and there's no bad angle on this bike. You can take pictures of this bike from any angle, and
Mm.
it just looks amazing. And even with the like their,
Mm.
what is it, their
Mm.
Brutali, which is their street fight, the dragster.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that. It's just
Yeah, I know.
it's just
I
brilliant.
know. Yeah.
It's the same
The
same
name
thing.
suits it too. It just fits. It's so good.
Yep.
Mm,
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, so the Romer is a 1000cc triple, and the now on the 675 version, which Nick Rockwell actually he races, and I think I got a picture of his bike. Yeah, there it is, right there in the background. You can see
Wow. Yeah.
where it says, oops, that's my bike.
Rockwell Cole
Yeah, there it is.
cycles. Yeah.
So yeah, so he has set
Mm.
up this bike now. He said the stock gearing is, like, it really doesn't allow it to get out to the top end like he really wanted it to. So he consulted with somebody that deals with racing the MV Agusta F3s, and he told him to drop 2 teeth in the rear and add 1 tooth to the front, and
Huh?
apparently that makes a huge amount of difference in the type of
Huh?
speed this bike makes on the track. And he was actually saying that the leader bike guys were only able to catch up to him, like, at just where the braking,
In the
you know,
straight.
at the end of the straight where the
Ah,
braking was, and they're like, how the heck is that thing so fast? And one of the reasons why this bike is so fast is because it has a really high red line for what it is. It's like 15,000, I think. It just revs really high. So it's a brilliant bike in that respect. Yeah, there it is. There's another photograph of it there.
mm,
Yep. So, yeah, very impressed. And I got to tell you, I mean, having ridden one, it's an experience you never forget. Only other complaint about the bike is it definitely needs a steering stabilizer. It
ah,
just, yeah, it's got a lot of head shake. If you go over
mm,
hit bumps and stuff, it's kind of nerve wracking.
yeah.
It'll straighten
And the
itself. It straightens itself out fine, but it's kind of a
Yeah, and I mean, if your your seating position is more like, yeah, obviously sports, so you're, yeah, pushing down almost, yeah, you'd feel every single little pebble, wouldn't you?
oh yeah,
Mm,
especially
yeah,
depending on the type of tires you have.
yeah, and yeah, it doesn't matter how loose your grip is, you'll feel it, won't you?
Yep. So, anyway, I'm really kind of jazzed because I'm a huge fan of three-cylinder bikes. I don't know, MV Agusta. And here's the thing, if we go back to Giacomo Agostini, who has the most, I think he holds the most manufacturers titles and the most world championships,
Ah,
if I'm not mistaken, of any rider. I think there was some sort of dispute whether Honda had one more, like, but I think it was circumstantial, and context has a lot to do with like who has
yeah,
more sort of thing with respect to the whole racing gig. But the one last thing I'll say about the F3 is that it is the most I've ridden a few sport bikes, and as far as sport bikes in general are not very comfortable bikes to ride over long periods of time.
mm,
If you're really young and spry, you don't give a crap, and you just ride it and you don't care.
mm,
Um, you know, but you're not thinking about it. But there's
mm,
so many things that contribute to rider fatigue,
mm,
and having to lean over and be focused, which is really what these bikes are designed for. You're
mm,
in a committed riding position, and you're supposed to thrash the thing about as quickly and as fastly as possible around a circuit. And
mm,
that's what it's intended for. That's what it's intended for. That's what it's designed to do. And as far as sport bikes go, I'd have to say this is probably the KTM RC8R also. This and the KTM RC8R are by far the most comfortable um, sports bikes I've ever thrown a leg over. And my street triple
you can
is
get,
rather comfortable. So,
mm.
but you were saying?
No, you can get, is that with factory seats, the ones that come out on them, or is that like aftermarket? Because
No, when right out, I guess, like right out of the box.
really,
Yeah,
yeah,
out of the
right,
box as far as
yeah,
by, and
because I
it's really,
know,
go ahead.
yeah, I know KTM's sort of, they get bad rap, with the being comfortable and needing a lot of they're not that reliable. People seem to say they're really uncomfortable and not that reliable, but people still love them. But I know that someone, they put another seat on it, and man, it was like a gel seat memory foam type thing. It was amazing. So I don't
Oh
know, but
yeah,
it was a KTM one. It was like the KTM had made it, but you had to buy it after it being out in the factory.
yes, right.
So maybe they're getting a little bit more clued up to the fact that, yeah,
Well, it
comfort is
could,
actually a thing.
yes, well, it could be. And what's interesting too is, like, with respect to KTM, the RC8R has been discontinued. The I
Mm.
think it's the LC8 engine, which is the big V twin, the 11. It's the motor that came in the RC8. And I think there's the other iteration of the same motor in the Super Duke, although I'm not entirely positive, but I think it is. And yeah, it's beautiful. You sat on the Super Duke. How did you like that?
I know, I loved it. It was just out of this world. Absolutely. It just was, oh my gosh, I can't even talk about it. It was
Yeah.
so amazing. It was trouble though. Trouble. Like the guy had flung it into a barbed wire fence. And
What?
yeah, the first week he had it just because it was so intense. And this guy had been riding forever. So, but he talked about it with a smile on his face. So I mean, it's got a lot of passion, and that's kind of what riding's about. So it's perfect.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
yeah, amazing.
So, right. So KTM, I mean, there's other rumors with like respect to KTM. I understand they're coming out with a mid-sized V twin, like a 650-ish type of sort of thing to compete with
Mm,
some of like the Suzuki SV650, the Yamaha MT-07 or FC07, depending,
oh,
which is kind of a
let
cool
me
bike as well. And so there's a niche. There seems to be sort of a gap, a stopgap niche
mm,
for uh, those type of bikes that would be like somewhere around the 70 to 90-ish horsepower range, somewhere around
right,
there, I think. And it's funny because the Street Triple is like between a those and a sport bike. It's kind of weird because the Street Triple is around 100-ish horsepower, maybe around 90 or 92 on the rear tire, I guess is what it would be. But they never give you the rear wheel horsepower. They think they do at the crank. Generally, their figures are at the crank, so it's like 107 horsepower at the crank. And
right,
then a sport bike would be like somewhere from 115 to 125 or 130 ish, or 125, or 120 something horsepower, I guess, would be the 600 class. But it's funny because since Honda is discontinuing their CBR 600, it
mm,
kind of, I mean, I think you're going to see Suzuki will probably follow suit with that, and
mm.
they'll because will there be any market for the super mids is kind of where
Yeah,
the
it,
675, the Ducati, like the 8 or the was it the 959 now, and then they had the 8 what was it, the 859 or whatever it was for a while, but then they came out with the 959. And so you have this whole sort of um, thing swirling around the super
mm,
mid class and leader bikes, and it's kind of like the
mm.
600s have sort of are starting to kind of become marginalized or
Yeah, I
forgotten
think
about,
that's
sort
really
of thing.
sad. I think that's really sad. I think it's is it, do you think because of the regulations like emissions and different things? Is that the
I
main
think
drive?
that's kind of contributing part to it.
Yeah.
I just saw photographs of the new Triumph Street Triple
Huh?
765. Yeah, let's take a look at that. Street Triple 765. There are some spy photographs of it here. We can take a quick look.
Spy photographs?
Yeah, here's a pretty
Like
decent.
been leaked?
Yeah, there we go. There it is.
Oh, that needs a tail tidy badly.
Well, they've gotten all this clunky, crappy stuff around it and
Mm,
stuff. Now, I don't know. I mean, obviously
mm,
it's not dressed up,
mm,
but you can see the big, this looks like
yeah.
all bollocks
Yeah.
here.
I
I guess that's
can't-
what you would.
I'm not a fan. I am not a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
Well,
It's not.
apparently what they've done
Mm,
is it's going to have the same headlights as the new Speed Triple.
right.
This has got a different rear swing arm
Yeah, I
than,
don't know. It's interesting.
and they got new different engine casings on this. So, and it looks like they put Brembos on this as well. Yeah.
I like that. Hmm.
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 Right. So this is
Hmm. Okay.
sort of
Hmm.
Yeah, it's doesn't not very. I mean, that's kind of a dirty
Not.
looking, sort of less than flattering picture of it. But
Yeah, it feels
here's
dirty, but it definitely has like you just want to sort of play with it a bit. Like, yeah,
here's another
just
frontal, which is kind of cool.
mm, yeah, it's missing. It's just missing something.
Well,
I
this
don't know. It's
well
just
bear in mind this is probably not the finished product. It's
yeah. Well,
just
that's
a
true.
like a test mule, which has not been completely dressed up. Then there is talk about doing something this with like a semi fairing on the
What?
front. Yeah,
No.
yeah.
No, 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 no. Oh
No,
no.
don't like it.
No, no, no,
It's like, what are you
no.
doing to
It's
the
like,
bike? Like, see, this is what the
yeah,
bike
it's
looks.
like taking away the.
This is what the
It's
bike
taking
looks
away
like
the.
now. Yeah,
Oh yeah, I like that.
yeah. See, this is what the bike looks like now, current
Mm,
in its current form,
I like that. I like that.
and
See,
that's
that
an
feels like speed triple. It feels that. Yeah, see that blue one. That was just like totally. That's almost like trying to make it too much like another bike. Like I don't like that.
hmm.
I don't like that. I don't. No. Mm. Oh no.
Yeah,
It's almost like yeah, they're just trying to. I don't know. Okay.
yeah.
Don't show me anymore.
Okay, so that's there's the purple that was like from 28, yeah, 2008 to 2012. Very cool. Um, yeah, that's kind of
Oh,
like what the
I
street
like the
triple is.
pipe.
A lot of people like the old
Mm.
round headlight. Like a lot of people didn't like these bug. I guess they call them bug eyes.
They're
Or
like gem. Yeah.
like here's the
Mm.
RX. This is it's got the Daytona.
Oh, I actually like that.
Yeah, it's
I actually like that one.
yeah, it's got the Daytona tail, and they
Mm.
dressed the wheels up
Mm.
in red. Um, they
Yeah.
still use this matte red finish, which I was never really a fan of on the subframe.
Really? You
Yeah,
don't like the
see,
matte?
mine's what I did with mine is I put a
Mm.
it's like a lipstick gloss, like this glossy red
Yeah. Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the subframe, and it looks, you know, and with a white rim, and I powder coated my wheels white, which makes the bike look really nice.
Oh, I've got my wheels in it at the moment getting
Oh, you're getting
painted.
them? Oh, nice.
They're not getting powder coated, but they're getting painted.
Okay. Just
Um,
bear in mind, powder coating actually lasts longer. Well, it's a lot more
yeah,
durable because
that's
it
the thing.
bonds to the metal.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was humming and hawing about it for a long time, and because it's the 250, and I'll probably get like a bigger bike later on, and all this sort of stuff. I was like, well, just see how it goes painting them. So that's what I'm gonna do. Because I was looking at powder coating because I thought it'd be stronger and everything like that. And then a guy I talked to said he done his wheels and they've been fine. So
Here,
I don't. Yeah.
here's the what
Oh
the street triple. Everybody came to know the street triple to, and the
yes,
speed triple had the
yes,
round
yes.
headlights, and that's what most people are familiar with.
Yeah, yeah, I gotta admit, I like that too. I like that too.
Yeah.
I like that too.
There's it's gotten they took the pillion pegs off and they put
Mm,
the uh the
yeah,
cap on the rear
yeah,
seat. Nice, huh?
uh, yeah, yeah. I like the pipe like that.
Now
I just,
let's look at the cup bikes because they race these, which are my favorites.
how finicky do you get when you're cleaning your sprocket? Like, trying to get it like new again. Do you think that's a little bit anal?
Well,
Can you hear
yeah,
me?
yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, you don't have to go to. That's a speed. That's actually a speed triple,
Oh,
and you can tell
oh,
because
I like that. Oh my goodness.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
nice,
that's
huh?
nice. That's nice. That's really cool. I love that seat like that. It's very old school. It's almost like old school racer like and a bit of cafe and a bit of it's sort of got a bit of everything in there, eh? But they've put it together really, really well.
Yes, agreed. Totally.
Yeah, see, I like that way better than that blue thing. Whew.
Wow, that really didn't sit well with you, huh?
No, sir.
So here are the street triple race bikes. Oops, didn't want to go.
Huh.
Uh,
Huh.
there you go. All right, so yeah, here are the street triple.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, there's a whole like following with these. It's really weird because they're faster than um the 650s, but they're just not quite as fast as the super sports. They're kind of in a sort of a class all their own. It's really
Hmm.
strange.
Has that got to do with torque?
Yes, they lots of torque. I mean, you know, the torque on a street triple, like off, even like when I was racing, like off the line, up to about 80 to 90 miles an hour. Uh, I would say that this will is right there with the leader bike, you know,
Mm,
or you know maybe even to 100 because of where the torque is in the rev range. It's like you know between let's say 4 and 7, and it builds all the way up into the mid range. But then it's when it starts to get up around
yeah.
like 11, 11 and a half, 12, it'll still pull,
Starts.
but it starts to wheeze a little bit, you know.
Wait. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so what I was actually contemplating, I'd like to actually talk to some guys in Austria, in Germany, because they race a lot of these bikes there.
They
And
do.
yes, well, that's the whole like what is it? Hockenheim is where they have a lot of the
All right.
races
Right. Right.
for these bikes,
Mm-hmm.
and so they uh
Oh,
I'm
is
just
that the one?
it's 12 and like my bike has 12 and a half to 1 compression, and I'm just wondering if I went to like a 13 to 1 compression and maybe got you know I wonder if they make different racing cams for this is what I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something I don't know. But anyway, so that's another triple. Like that's why I'm a huge fan of the triples, and the speed and the street triple have really, you know, there's huge following with them, and so on and so forth, and they're just great all around bikes and stuff. But still a
Yeah.
track, you know, it's still very track
Yeah.
focused.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact, actually, from 2013 forward, the street triple became even more track focused than like from the early ones, you know, the
Really one.
2000 and like the 2007 to 2012 or
Mm.
2009 maybe, because I think they went through another big change in 2009 to 2012, and then from 12 or then from 13 forward they went through an even you know another change, yet another change. So
Mm.
um
Mm.
so yeah, so they made see like people complained that the bike was like in first gear. It just had a really short first gear, so it was bringing the like here you can see
Like
in
it.
this sort of
Yeah.
photograph with the front tire coming up
And
off the ground
lift.
there. Yep.
Yeah, I love
So what
that,
they
but it wastes time. Mm.
so what they did in from 2013 is they made first gear a little bit longer, so
Longer.
it's a lot
Mm.
harder to power wheelie, and they also changed the rake, the front end. They made it they brought the rake in a little bit, and what that does is it actually brings the weight of the bike forward, so again it's less prone to wheelie. So I think the new
Right.
like on my bike it's 52/48, it's 52 and 52% front end
Oh
bias,
wow.
yeah, and 48%
Huh.
rear wheel bias, and it used to be I think the other way around on the older ones. I'm not sure,
Ah, that's fascinating.
but yeah. So, not a beginner, in my opinion, not a beginner bike, but a great bike to cut your teeth on.
No.
Yeah, it's just a fun bike. So what else do we
Mm.
have? So let's maybe talk a little bit about, we were going to talk a little bit about EBR without, I don't know why this decided to go into a commercial here, but we don't want to watch him. And this is the Macau circuit, Macau
Hmm.
GP. Are you familiar with
I am not.
well,
I'm sure we'll be soon.
Macau is it takes place over in Asia. over in the Far
Mm-hmm.
East, and it's a circuit that runs through the streets of the
Is
city.
that night? No, it's something else. Mm.
Yeah, and so
Mm.
if you look at this, some of the
Mm.
footage here, this is Mark Miller on his EBR Big V Twin going up against all the inline four bikes, and this was like one of the first major turns in the race. This was back in 2013. And if you look, I mean, it's just really like wheel to wheel racing, and there's no runoff. If you mess up, you're going right into the wall, and there's
So
nowhere to
it's a
go.
little bit like Asia's TT.
Yes, you could. That's probably
Cool.
a good. That's probably a good way to put it. Highly competitive. It's probably, in my opinion, I think it's every bit as dangerous as the TT, but it's just in a
Mm.
completely different setting. It's in an urban setting, city. These are city streets, and very close.
Mm. So
Near
he'll be right in his element because he's won. What did he won in a TT pick in? Was it
2010.
2011?
2010, I think, yeah,
Oh,
on the electric.
oh, he was second. 2011. He was second.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think he won. Mark Miller won in 2010, and Mark
Mm.
Miller, as we've talked about on a few different occasions, is probably aside from Guy Martin. I know Guy Martin has never won a TT, but he's just, I don't know why, it's just my favorite road racer.
Oh, yeah,
And
I know. Well, I like John McGuinness. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
SP.
yeah,
Yeah, but
John McGinnis is just, he's like a phenomenon. He's just,
yeah,
he's won
but
like
he's so.
nine.
Oh, I don't know now.
But you were saying, I'm sorry, before I interrupted, you were saying he's what?
Oh, I can't remember. They're just amazing. He's got this personality where he's just still just a regular dude. He's just a regular guy, and it's just nice. Like he doesn't have all this bravado or arrogance, and it comes across, and I really like that. And I like Guy Martin as well a lot, even though he hasn't won. But the way he does it, and he is a little bit hurt by the media and the whole, everyone going into the pits and things like that. But he admits that he's not perfect and everything like that, which I really like as well. And I love that he's a truck fitter that he loves his job and he'll always do that. But he loves bikes and racing bikes too. But I think he's quite sensitive in a way too, and he's been a little bit hurt by.
I wonder if it has anything to do with, I watched I think it was called Closer to the Edge, if you remember that documentary.
I don't know
And
if I
he had
did.
talked a little bit about, I think his dad wouldn't come to see him race or something. I think,
Mm,
I'm not sure if
mm,
that's what
mm,
actually happened, but I'm
mm.
wondering if there was some sort of falling out there with his dad, and it just, left him kind of with a chip on
His
his
dad
shoulder.
pisses him off. I know, like in a couple of his books, he does talk about it a lot. Like his dad drives him insane. Like his dad will stir his cup of tea so many times and it'll clink on the side, and he always does it that way, and it always gets to him, and he thinks his dad does it on purpose just to piss him off. So there's this whole like thing going. There's definitely something going on there. But in the next sentence, he will say he loves his dad so much, and he really appreciates this and that and everything like that, and he wants to make the most of their relationship as well. So it's almost like he's a little bit torn by the whole thing. Like he's trying to be mature about it, but he still has these hurts like any other kid does. So yeah, it is fascinating. It's a fascinating dynamic there. But yeah, I don't know. It seems he's trying to balance it out, but he's a wild one. I
Yeah.
think he's trying to rein it in, but there's this wild beast inside. So
Well, restlessness, and I think all of us
yeah.
have that to some greater degree or lesser, um, depending on your
Mm,
situation in life
mm,
or
mm,
circumstances. And I think it's something all of us, have to wrestle with from time to time.
Mm,
But Mark Miller made a really profound admission that I thought was actually it was an honest admission.
mm,
He said, in order to be a racer like this, he says you have to.
right.
He says it's a very selfish thing,
Yeah.
because you're only thinking about your. And I'm like, you know what? He's absolutely right. I
Yeah.
hadn't really thought about it before, but it is. I guess if we're being honest, it is kind of an ego thing. You're like challenging
Mm,
yourself, and you want to be able to push the limits and see what you can
to
do. But
be number one. Yeah.
it's always all about you, sort of
Mm,
thing, right?
mm,
And
mm,
so, and it's you kind of want to share it with the world, and it's one of those things where you say to people, like, if you've never, you can't really describe what it's like to be on a motorcycle unless you've actually ridden one. It's just,
yeah.
how do you put something like that into words?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
flying, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
kind of what it's
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Exactly.
But
Exactly.
I guess
Mm,
when I've heard like Mark Miller talk about, like, I think he was in Macau, and he was interviewed by a British guy, if I'm not mistaken, and they were talking
mhm,
about the death of a one of the fellow racers there. And this is kind of where Miller was reflecting on the whole,
mm,
situation about being selfish and you're really only thinking about yourself, kind of thing. And
right.
I don't know if anybody really thinks about it that way, but I mean, there's so much. He said it with such candor and sincerity that
Yes.
it was hard to imagine, like, him,
Ignorant. Yeah.
yeah, like, not, or
Mm,
it was hard to imagine him ignoring the fact that, that it is what it is, sort of thing.
mm,
So,
mm, mm.
but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
given me, like when I've crashed, I particularly, like when I was caring for my folks, I had a brief moment where I thought, like, I was just gonna give it up, and
Mm, mm,
because I
mm.
just
Yeah.
thought to myself, it's like, why, what am I doing, sort of thing.
Mm.
But anyway,
Yeah, I think they all do that though. Like that big crash that Martin had when he came out of the fireball, like that
uh,
whole thing, and
that
everyone's
was
like,
in
"Oh, you're gonna,
2010, I think that was. Yeah.
are you gonna give up now? You're gonna, sort of thing." And I think they all like everybody does tend to take stock after something like that does happen. Everyone sort of steps back and goes, "Well, what what exactly is going on here, and what does it mean, and what if that did happen, and everything like that." And I think he did have that moment, but he didn't want it to be a moment because everyone else was saying it, type thing, like, "Oh, you're going to give up," all the media in his face, and oh, gosh, and all that sort of stuff. But I kind of think of Stoner a little bit as well, and how he's handled, like, he's kind of I think he's looked at his life and he's worked out what it is that matters most to him and what he wants it to be like, type thing. And that's partially maybe why he's not racing. He's just doing testing now, isn't he?
Yeah,
Instead of
for, I guess he left Honda and he's now been testing for Ducati,
Ducat. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. But I think, yeah, and kind of reflecting on Stoner and his, and look, this is kind of my take on. I don't profess to know, like, all the the mechanisms of all of these riders and stuff. I mean, I see the appeal of Valentino Rossi. I get it. I under like he's the kind
Mm.
of dude who would not he's the kind of dude who seems to me would be really approachable. Like, you could go up to him and say,
Yes.
like, "Hey," and he'd be like, "Yeah, it's all cool." It's like, "Hey, do you want a cup of coffee or something?" And then, "Help yourself to
Mm.
an espresso over there," in his, like,
Yeah.
Italian accent or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. He's very personable.
Yeah,
His eyes show it that he's got a bit of genuineness there, and he's no. I don't know, when I compare Valentino with Lorenzo, like something about Lorenzo just gets to me. I can't deal with it. There's just like this calculating. I don't know. I don't want to say malice, but there's something in there that's very, very harsh and
yeah,
cold.
yeah.
And
I kind of I
yeah,
see. I think he's softened up a little bit
a
over the
little
years,
bit. Yeah, I
but
agree.
uh, but here's the thing:
Mm,
like when I juxtapose, like let's say somebody like Stoner against the rest of these guys. I don't know too much about Pedrosa, but I do like his demeanor based on what I've seen of
I do.
Pedrosa.
I do.
I
I'm angry at Pedrosa right now. I'm angry with him. I was rooting for him so long, and he just
well,
keeps coming off, and he just, I'm just like, get some balls, boy. Come on, do it. You can do it. It's like he's got the ability. He's got it in there, but it's like his brain gets in the way or something. I don't know. He comes off all the time, and then he gets all upset about it, and off he goes again. And he starts to get all better again. Oh, it drives me insane.
yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah,
because it's there, and he does. He has a good personality. He's very humble, and he's very caring. You know, like he's very like about teammates and things. Like he tries to do the right thing, almost to his detriment. I think sometimes he just needs to have a little bit more passion and push, have a
right,
little bit more resolve. I don't know what exactly is that thing that's missing that's stopping him. It's like there's a ceiling there that he keeps hitting, but
yeah.
I don't know.
But the one
Yeah.
thing that stands out to me, like, okay, all right, if I were to lump, like, let's say, I kind of lump Lorenzo, Rossi, Marquez
Mm,
into the same sort of box. And the reason why I do that, I'm sure there's like a whole host of others, but
mm,
when I look at somebody like Stoner,
mm.
Stoner didn't his entire family basically,
Yeah.
bet like their entire life savings
Lives. Yes.
on his career. I mean, they basically
Basically.
just said like, now I don't know if that's been true of any of these other guys. I understand a lot of these other guys were born with
Mm.
silver spoons in their mouth. They came from wealth.
Right.
They came
All their
from
families have been racist before.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so
Mm.
I don't know. And that's kind of the other I don't know. And I don't know what it is about Marquez that bugs me. I don't know if it's he just has
Yeah,
this spoiled brat.
it's almost like he doesn't actually really know what the reality is because he's been in the bubble for so long, maybe. He's like
Yeah.
this young boy that's always had so
Well,
much
I
and
guess
it's always sort of
the same could be said is true for Rossi. No,
mm, mm,
because I think
mm.
Rossi's dad was a racer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then Lorenzo, who knows what's going
Yeah.
through that
Yeah.
guy's mind. But
Yeah. I don't want to know.
yeah, now we're looking at the specs or the stats right now, and the
Mm.
I am just so sick of seeing Yamaha and Honda always. But look at this
I
number.
actually am too. I'm a
Look,
Honda girl, but man.
but look at this Maverick Vinales Suzuki in just one
No, I'm so happy about that.
in just 1 year. Suzuki is in the top five. And I think they
Mm,
won. What is it? One or two races ago, they got first place, or was it
mm,
Vinales
mm.
that got first place?
When?
I don't know. It was earlier. It was a couple of races ago. I think Suzuki actually won a race, or but they've been doing very well this year.
I
Uh,
think it was the last. Was it the last race or the one before that? Maybe.
Now the other thing that bugs
Oh
me is
gosh, I can't remember.
Ducati has the fastest bikes on the track, and they're still running.
I know. No, like the end of the season, I was like, right, this is it. This is it. Ducati's going to take it out.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And then of course Vinales is going to go. Like Suzuki will be kicking themselves because Vinales is going to. He's going to Yamaha. Is that right?
Uh, yes, and then I think Lorenzo is going to Ducati, and or yes, yeah, Lorenzo's going to Ducati.
Tristan.
I think he's taking Ione's place or Dovi's place.
Iannone. I always mix them up. It's bad. Which ones?
Yeah,
One
yeah,
of them's
yeah.
injured at the moment, and Peru, Peru, no,
Esparago?
Peru.
No,
I
okay. I
can't remember
got
his first name.
there's two
Mm-mm.
Esparagos: Lafferty, Barbera, Petrucci, Miller, Smith, Batista, Bradle, Rabat, Boz,
Peru.
Pierre.
I think Peru's usually, but he's filling in. Um, it's like Michello or something. Peru, I think.
Okay.
Ages ago, I was keeping my eye. I thought, oh yeah, but he never seemed to come up, and then he crashed. But I was like, oh man, I'm
So
filling in.
so then
That's interesting. Maybe they think.
so what do we have here? We have what's coming up? Qatar. Let's see. French round, Pirelli round, July, September, French. Okay, what? Wait a minute. This is super. But I'm looking
Italy.
at. All right, I'm looking at SBK. So we got
All right,
September 6th. Wait a minute. September 16th, which is next week, I
next
guess.
week.
We got the German round. So there's two more. There's four more races left in the season. Qatar's going to be the last one in Superbike and in Super Sport, right? So let's look at the results in both Super Sport and Superbike. So we have Jonathan Ray, Tom Sykes are leading in points. Jonathan Ray with 368, Sykes with 322. Chaz Davies for Ducati is at 260 points, and Guigliano is at 185. Vandermark is for Honda is at 185. Nikki Hayden is at number 6 for Honda.
Number 6. Come on, Nikki.
Yeah, I know. Interestingly, um, wait a minute. Wait a minute. MV Agusta is in the top 10 with their F4. Uh,
Ooh.
with their that's interesting. I didn't think they were doing that well this year, but apparently they are. So they're tied. MV Agusta and Aprilia are tied at 110 points. Camier, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Camier. Camier or Camier, maybe. Who is I guess he's a Brit. Who's riding for MV Agusta, and Salvadori, who's riding for Aprilia. So they're tied. So, yeah, looks like Kawasaki's going to take it this year. I mean, they're just so far on in points. I don't
So
see them.
just, well,
And then
yeah,
in World Super,
Kawasaki.
this is
SBK, like to me, SBK is Kawasaki. Like it always has been. Like I don't know. I don't know what it is. It just is.
is
Because
Gino
I
Ray
thought there was,
is Gino Ray Jonathan Ray's brother, or are they related?
I don't know, but there's like a foray in there, and there's a foray in MotoGP too, and I'm wondering if there's so many brothers, aren't there? Or
Relatives or something. Yeah.
relatives, and it's like,
Yeah.
once you get in there, you get in there, which I guess,
Sure. So, I can't stand
uh,
this guy, Keenan. I mean, look, I'll give the guy credit where credit is due. He's a good rider. I think sometimes he has.
held the flag up.
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
Turkish rider,
that's the
Keenan
guy. Yeah.
Safoglu. I don't know. I mean, I understand he's done some dirty stuff. Like, not, I don't know about this season, but I know that he's done some pretty shady riding like in the
Mm,
past, and I'm not really on
mm.
board with him. Kawasaki's been dominating the
Oh, Sykes is just, I mean, you can't beat Sykes. Like,
yeah,
ah,
he's cool. PJ now American PJ Jacobson on the Honda is doing really well. I'm really surprised to see Jules
oh,
Clouseau.
Jacobson.
Yeah, PJ.
Mm.
Um, yeah, he's American rider. He's got in third place with 92 points. Safoglu's got 146. Some really crazy things are going to happen over the next few rounds in order because I think I think he took the world championship last year, and I don't know, he's gotten quite a few championships under his belt. So it'll be interesting to see whether he moves on to Superbike or does something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
but he's done really well for himself in a lot of these rounds. You know, Clusel is a great rider. I mean, I think he was a Moto 2 rider for a while. And then, but, you know, for the last few years, he's been riding MV Agusta in Super Sport. And gosh, I mean, I think he was in first, second place for a while. And then, I don't know, he just kind of fell off the ladder. So he's gone down there. So we have quite a lot of MV Agustas in Super Sport, a lot of F3s that are competing. Terrell was Cluzel's replacement. I think it was last year because Cluzel took that bad crash last year. So anyway, so we got
I never get to keep up with his PK.
We got Kawasaki, Honda, MV, Honda, MV, Honda, and Kawasaki all in the top 10 there. So, and let's look at the Stock 1000 series. And I'm not familiar with any of these riders. I've not been really following this, but it looks like BMW is doing quite well in the Super Stock 1000. They're in first place with 82 points, followed by Ducati, Aprilia, Ducati, and Yamaha. And then Kawasaki is 6th and 7th. So anyway, Marcel Ernie might be happy to, I'm sure he's probably happy about that. I didn't really think, Canepa is in 13th place and racing for Yamaha. He actually has liked quite a few of my, interestingly enough, photographs on Instagram.
Huh. Is he stalking you?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, no. I mean, I just, you know, he just likes.
I don't know.
But yeah. So Nicola Canepa, a Moto former, I think he was a Moto 2 rider or MotoGP. I can't remember, but I was just like, wow. I mean, this dude actually likes he likes Triumphs, you know. So he's like some of my photographs and stuff. Well, that's cool. So yeah. Oh, the other interesting, other bit of news that I wanted to sort of touch on here was anybody who's watched Motorcycle USA reviews on YouTube probably knows or remembers Adam Waheed. And really cool. Like, I love his reviews. I love how, like, his, like, sort of just matter of fact, casual approach to, you know, his reviews. He's kind of funny, but I just really like his reviews and stuff. So I like, you know, I was just like, well, he posted something on Google Plus, like, I don't know, a few days ago or a week ago or something. And it was like, hey, you know, it's like, I really miss, you know, your reviews. And because Motorcycle USA they're basically dissolves the company. And I guess they had their last sort of run of videos earlier this year. I think it was in February or March or something like that. And I was like, I haven't seen any reviews from Motorcycle USA in forever. So I was like, what's going on? So I looked and I just read an article and they basically closed their doors earlier this year. So anyway, I guess I don't know. I don't know the whole reason. I'm sure it had something to do with just you know, the editors wanting to go their own way. Maybe they're hurting financially. Who knows? You know, could be a culmination of different things, personality conflicts, whatever. You know, it's always something like in companies and corporations. Somebody wants to steer the ship in a different direction, and you know, not everybody wants to go in that way. So then everybody just goes their own way. Anyway, so I left him a comment. He wrote an article about the Panigale 1299, which is a really kind of cool article. He really liked the bike. And so I just left a comment and I said, hey, you know, really miss your reviews, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't expecting. So like 2 or 3 days later, he responds and he's like, you know, hey, bro. He's like, yeah, you know, he says, if you want, he says, let me know if you, what you'd like to see, like anything you'd like to see reviewed or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, well, could you do something like with maybe some of the old school like racers from the 60s and some of the two strokes maybe, and you know, like some of the old Honda RC like 166 and 174, that basically it was Honda's sort of jab in the eye at two strokes back in the day. Sashiro Honda had this idea that he was determined to,
Wow.
put two strokes to shame, which he actually did. The RC 166, I think, went undefeated. It was this little 250cc with six cylinders, and the entire engine was made out of magnesium, and it like revved to 23,000 RPMs, and it was.
What?
Yes, I'm serious. It's like, here, I'll show you the bike. Let's take a look at it while we're talking about it.
That's crazy. I haven't. Show me.
Okay, here we go. So yeah, this is the bike here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is it right here.
When was this?
Um, this here. Let's take a look at.
Magnesium?
Yeah, here's see. Look,
Whoa.
isn't that cool?
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah,
Kinetic.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. Oh, those sprockets.
yeah. And this is like the entire engine here. I think is all the parts and stuff.
Can you
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh. Oh,
yeah. And this bike could go 100. Think about this now. This is in the 60s. This bike could go
what's it?
100. This bike could go
My,
150 miles an hour. This bike. Can you imagine? Yeah, there you go. Are you there? I think we may have lost you. Um, but anyway, so yeah, this is a bike I would wanted to talk about for a long time. But yeah, so 60 horsepower, but it had like 9 speeds, and it could go over 150 miles an hour, and it was loud as all get out. Yeah, and it was competing with well, and then yeah, Moto Guzzi came out with their V8 500, which could go like 190, which is crazy. But so so that's our I'm going to just conclude this by saying that's going to be our Saturday evening or early Sunday morning hangout. I want to thank everybody for coming along and viewing or watching. And there will be more to come as we discover more stuff about MV Agusta's future, the company's future, and a few of the other things. We'll probably be talking about KTM's MotoGP bike. We will also cover EBR, the 1190 RX, and we'll try to bring you up to date on what's going on with them. So I wanted to thank everybody for tuning in, for watching, and I hope you're all well. And shiny side up, dirty side down, shades and spades. Thanks for being in the zone.